On a bitterly cold, early morning, Jack Taylor, a man who has long been disillusioned with life, drives through a desolate, snow-covered road. The grey sky reflects his somber mood as he sips his coffee, unaware that the quiet stillness will soon be shattered by a sound that will change everything. As Jack's car hums through the snow. A faint, desperate cry cuts through the silence, a sound so raw, it almost sounds human. Jack freezes, his hand hovering over the radio dial. He quickly turns it off, listening intently. The cry grows louder, urging him to pull over and investigate. Before you dive into the video, let us know where you're watching from and don't forget to hit the like button. Jack Taylor is a man of average build and appearance, with unkempt brown hair and deep-set eyes that reflect years of quiet disappointment. At 35, he looks older than his years, worn by the weight of a life that has not turned out the way he expected. He works as a middle manager in a small, struggling tech company. His office is cluttered with old papers and a dusty plant that he hasn't watered in months. Jack's career, much like his life, feels stagnant once full of potential, now stuck in a cycle of monotony. A few years ago, Jack had been full of ambition, eager to climb the corporate ladder and prove himself in a world where success was defined by power and status. He had worked long hours, sacrificed time with friends and family, and pushed himself to the brink of exhaustion. But despite his dedication, Jack's hard work didn't lead to the success he envisioned. Instead, it led to a fall from grace. His life changed when he discovered the company he worked for was involved in serious corporate corruption, fraudulent practices, embezzlement, and unfair treatment of employees were rampant. Jack, believing in the integrity of his role, couldn't stay silent. He made the decision to blow the whistle, hoping that by exposing the truth, he would bring about justice. But the corporate world didn't respond with the justice he expected. Instead, his actions led to a swift backlash. His colleagues, once friends, distanced themselves, and the management made sure Jack was branded a troublemaker. His once promising career crashed as his reputation was tarnished. He was labeled as a disruptor, a term that in the business world was a kiss of death. The company dismissed him, and soon after, the once close network he had built in the industry evaporated. Jack was left with nothing. His personal relationships faltered, too. His fiancée, Emily, who had supported him through his rise in the company, eventually left him. Unable to cope with the uncertainty and constant stress that surrounded Jack's downfall. Without her, Jack's loneliness deepened. He spent most of his days in a haze, disconnected from friends, isolated in his small apartment, his hopes dimming with each passing day. His apartment, small and modest, is filled with remnants of a past life, an old coffee mug from a conference he attended years ago, the framed picture of a beach vacation with Emily, and a stack of books that he no longer has the energy to read. Jack often finds himself staring out of the window, lost in thought, wondering where things went wrong. He had sacrificed so much for success, only to lose everything in the end. The world outside his apartment feels like a cold, distant place. He's lost faith in the very systems that promised to reward hard work and integrity. Jack doesn't trust anyone anymore. He has no illusions about life or the future. He's become disillusioned with the idea that doing the right thing will lead to success. Instead, it seems like the corrupt and the powerful continue to win, while those who stand up for what's right are left behind. However, deep inside Jack, a flicker of something remains, a faint, lingering desire to make a difference, to feel like he still has a purpose. That spark has been buried under years of disappointment, but it's still there, waiting for the right moment to reignite. Jack may not believe in people anymore, but he hasn't completely given up on the idea of doing something meaningful. even if it's just for one small creature in the world. As he drives along the snowy road that morning, Jack doesn't know that the very moment of quiet he's seeking will soon be disrupted by a cry that will pull him back into the fight for something bigger than himself. Jack's past is a labyrinth of choices, moments of pride, and a bitter fall from grace. His childhood wasn't filled with grand tragedies, but it wasn't exactly a story of dreams coming true either. He grew up in a modest home in a suburban neighborhood, with a father who worked as a high school teacher and a mother who was a stay-at-home mom. Life was simple, but Jack always felt a sense of yearning, a longing for something more than the life his parents seemed content with. He wasn't the rebellious type, but the desire for success and recognition gnawed at him. High school was a blur of books, late-night study sessions, and a need to prove to himself that he was capable of greatness. Jack was smart, dedicated, driven, traits that earned him scholarships and accolades. But they didn't win him many friends. He wasn't the popular kid. But he always believed that being the best in his field would be enough. College was the beginning of Jack's ambitious climb. He attended a prestigious business school, where he learned not only the ins and outs of corporate strategies, but also the unspoken rules that governed the professional world. It was here that he first tasted the harsh reality of competition, of playing the game not just to succeed, but to survive. Jack quickly learned that it wasn't always the smartest person who got ahead, it was the one who knew how to play the game. The one who could make connections, bend the rules without breaking them, and sell themselves like a product. In his second year of business school, Jack met Emily. She was driven, like him, but she had a calm about her that made her the perfect counterbalance to his ambition. They quickly became a couple, each pushing the other to achieve more. Emily was a natural leader, and Jack admired her confidence and charisma. She seemed to navigate the world with ease, while Jack struggled with his growing sense of disillusionment. But together, they made a formidable team. After graduation, Jack and Emily both landed high-paying jobs at one of the top tech companies in the country. For a while, everything seemed perfect. They worked hard, played hard, and were on track to build the lives they had always dreamed of. Jack was finally on the fast track to success. But as his career grew, so did the compromises. He watched his colleagues skirt around the edges of ethics, doing things that were morally questionable but financially lucrative. He convinced himself that this was just the way the world worked, that if he wanted to succeed, he would have to adapt. Jack's turning point came when he was promoted to a managerial position in his company. His new role gave him access to higher-level meetings, confidential documents, and sensitive information. It was then that he uncovered the truth: his company was involved in widespread fraud. They were embezzling funds, manipulating stock prices, and exploiting vulnerable clients. Jack's heart sank. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The company he had worked so hard to be a part of, the company that had promised to reward him for his dedication, was built on a foundation of lies. At first, Jack tried to ignore the signs. He told himself it was just business, that everyone was doing it, and that he could continue to rise if he kept quiet. But as time went on, the weight of the situation grew heavier. His conscience couldn't let him stay silent. Jack wrestled with the decision for weeks. His career was at its peak. He was respected by his peers, and Emily was proud of his accomplishments. But he knew that turning a blind eye would make him complicit in something far worse than failure. It would make him a part of the system he had always despised. So he did what he thought was right. He gathered evidence, contacted the authorities, and exposed the corruption within the company. It wasn't just a job anymore, it was a cause. Jack believed that if he could shine a light on the truth, things would change. He thought the world would reward him for his bravery, for standing up against what was wrong. But instead of the justice he expected, Jack found himself ostracized. His colleagues, the same people who had once praised his work ethic and determination, turned their backs on him. They labeled him a whistleblower, a troublemaker, and an idealist. Emily, torn between her loyalty to Jack and her desire to keep climbing the corporate ladder, became distant. Their relationship faltered under the strain of Jack's decision. She couldn't understand why he would throw everything away for a cause that didn't seem to matter to anyone else. She eventually left him. Unable to cope with the uncertainty that came with Jack's new life. In the months that followed, Jack's world fell apart. The company retaliated, ensuring he was blacklisted from any future opportunities in the corporate world. His reputation was ruined, even though the authorities investigated. The higher-ups were protected by money and influence, and Jack's courage was ultimately in vain. He lost his job, his career, and his fiancée. He became a symbol of failure, a man who had dared to stand up for what was right and paid the price for it. Since then, Jack has lived in a fog of bitterness and regret. He doesn't speak to his family much anymore, and his social circle has dwindled to nothing. He has grown resentful of a world that rewards greed and punishes integrity. The idealistic young man who once dreamed of changing the world now exists only as a shadow of his former self, living in a small, cramped apartment that mirrors his state of mind, isolated, cold, and forgotten. But deep inside, there's still a part of Jack that refuses to give up completely. The spark of hope, though dim, flickers, and on this cold morning, when he hears the dog's desperate cry, that spark begins to grow. It is a chance, a small chance, to make a difference again. A chance to redeem himself in a world that feels like it has long since abandoned him. As Jack drives down the snow-covered road, the world round him feels eerily quiet, as though the frozen landscape has muted the world. The cold air bites through the windows of his car, and the grey sky above is devoid of any warmth or color. His mind drifts back to his disillusioned past, the endless cycle of work, betrayal, and disappointment that has led him to this moment. He sips his coffee, hoping for some warmth, but the cup provides little comfort. The radio hums quietly in the background, but Jack doesn't hear the music. His mind is elsewhere. The road stretches on, endless and empty, just like his thoughts. But suddenly, his reverie is broken. A faint, almost inaudible sound pierces the stillness, an odd, desperate noise, something halfway between a whine and a groan. It's a sound he's never heard before, yet it sends a shiver down his spine. Jack frowns, unsure if his mind is playing tricks on him. He's alone on this road, far from any towns or houses, surrounded only by dense trees and snow. He turns the radio dial, but the faint cry persists, almost as if it's calling to him from the wilderness. His instincts kick in, and for the first time in ages, Jack feels a surge of urgency, a spark of life he hasn't felt in a long time. He pulls over to the side of the road, his tires crunching through the thick layer of snow. He sits there for a moment, listening, trying to pinpoint the source of the sound. His heart beats faster as the cry becomes clearer. It's coming from the forest, just beyond the tree line. Without a second thought, Jack turns off the engine and grabs a small stick from the back seat, something to defend himself if needed. His mind races. Could it be a wild animal in distress? Or perhaps a person? But no, the sound is distinctly that of an animal, a dog. Jack's heart tightens as he hears the unmistakable desperation in the cry. He opens the door, and the cold rushes in like a slap, making him shiver. It's a biting cold that cuts right through him, but he doesn't hesitate. The sound grows louder as Jack steps out of the car, the crunch of snow beneath his boots the only sound now. He walks cautiously toward the edge of the forest, his flashlight cutting through the darkness of the early morning. Every crack of a branch beneath his feet seems to echo in the stillness of the world round him. There's an unfamiliar sense of dread settling in his chest, but he pushes it aside. He has to help whatever is in distress. His breath forms thin wisps of smoke in the cold air, and he squints into the darkness, trying to make out anything that might explain the source of the sound. His heartbeat accelerates as the cry grows even more urgent. Then, through the trees, he sees it a shape, barely visible at first, but unmistakably a dog. It's standing near a large, snow-covered tree, its body trembling. The dog is small but strong, its fur dark and thick, likely a German shepherd. But Jack notices something that immediately sends a pang of anger and sorrow through him. The dog is tied to the tree. A thick rope wraps tightly round its neck, and its body is straining against the cruel restraint. The rope is so deeply embedded in the bark that it looks as though it's been there for months, maybe longer. The dog's eyes lock onto Jack's. There's fear in its gaze, but also a flicker of hope. The kind of hope only an animal that's been abandoned can show. The dog whimpers, a soft sound filled with both pain and longing. Its tail moves slightly, a tentative gesture of trust in Jack's presence. Jack's chest tightens as he kneels in front of the dog, the sight of its trembling form breaking his heart. The dog looks so fragile, like a piece of broken glass waiting to shatter. Jack hesitates for just a moment, unsure of how the dog might react. His mind briefly flashes to his own past, the betrayals, the hurt, the emotional scars. But this is different. The dog, even in its state of distress, is not a threat. It just wants help. The feeling of helplessness he's carried with him for so long stirs once more. But this time, it compels him to act. Jack reaches out slowly, placing his hand gently on the dog's head, speaking softly to it in a low, calming voice. "Hey there," he says, his words almost a whisper against the wind. "It's okay. I'm here to help you." The dog flinches at first, but then relaxes under the touch, allowing Jack to gently stroke its fur. The warmth of the dog's body, despite the cold, gives Jack a sense of purpose. He feels a connection, something he hasn't felt in years. The rope round the dog's neck is cruelly tight, and Jack realizes that it must have been here for a long time. The animal's fur is matted with dirt and snow, its body thin from hunger and cold. Jack's fingers fumble in the dim light as he works to untie the rope, his hands stiff from the biting cold. Every twist of the rope feels like a small victory, each inch of slack representing a small act of redemption, not just for the dog, but for Jack himself. After what feels like an eternity, the rope finally comes loose, and the dog stumbles forward, almost collapsing from exhaustion. It looks at Jack, its eyes filled with a mix of gratitude and confusion. The moment is overwhelming for Jack, a small, trembling creature that has been abandoned in the cold. Now free, now safe, Jack crouches down, speaking softly to the dog, offering comfort. For the first time in years, Jack feels as though he's done something good. He's made a difference, however small. The world, which had seemed so dark and indifferent, has given him this small, fragile moment of connection. The dog's tail wags faintly, its way of showing thanks, and in that small gesture, Jack finds a flicker of hope that had been buried deep within him for too long. The snow continues to fall gently round them, but the darkness of the world doesn't feel so suffocating anymore. Jack's actions have awakened something inside him, a reminder that even in the bleakest of times, there is still the possibility of light. As Jack gently pets the dog's head, he notices its exhaustion. The dog, a German shepherd, is clearly relieved to be free of the rope, but it's also clearly malnourished, its body weak and trembling from the cold. Jack quickly scans the dog's body, taking in the shallow breaths and the shivering. The coat is thick, but it's tangled and dirty, covered in snow and grime. Its once proud stature has diminished. and it stumbles on its feet as though the weight of its past has worn it down. But there's something Jack notices as his eyes fall upon the dog's collar. The name on the collar is faded, but still legible. Rex. His heart skips a beat, and as he reaches closer, he notices a family name engraved under the dog's tag. McAllister. Jack freezes. The name strikes him like a thunderclap, sending a jolt of recognition through his body. The McAllisters are not just any family, they're the wealthiest, most influential family in the town. Known for their wealth and status, they are also infamous for their shady business dealings, the ones who run the town with an iron fist. Jack has crossed paths with the McAllisters before, though in a very different context. It's the same family that was responsible for ruining his career, the ones who helped drive him into the abyss of disillusionment and failure. Rex, the dog, was once part of their family if the collar is any indication. Jack doesn't know why it hits him like this. The discovery of the dog's connection to the McAllisters feels like a punch to the gut. Here, in the middle of nowhere, tied to a tree and left to die, is the very symbol of the family that had destroyed Jack's life. A cold anger rises in Jack's chest, a fierce tide of resentment. The McAllisters' actions had already caused Jack enough pain, their corporate corruption, their manipulation of people, and the way they had effortlessly dismissed his integrity as a threat. But to think that they could treat an innocent animal with the same indifference and cruelty stirs something deep inside him. Jack leans down, speaking softly to the dog, his voice shaky with emotion. Rex, how? You've been through hell, haven't you? The dog looks at him with weary eyes, as if understanding that Jack knows more than just its name. There's a silent acknowledgement between them, a shared bond of abandonment and suffering. He stands up and scans the area around him. The trees loom, casting long shadows as the cold wind picks up. Jack's mind races as he realizes that he's now caught between two worlds. The quiet, peaceful life he tried to build after his career fell apart, and the angry, vengeful world of the McAllisters. The very family that destroyed his future. The discovery of Rex and its connection to the McAllisters opens a floodgate of emotions within Jack. He had once tried to expose the corruption within the McAllister-controlled company, to bring the truth to light, and yet, in the end, he had been branded a prior whistleblower no one cared about. The company went on, and Jack's life spiraled into chaos. Now, in front of him, is living proof of the McAllisters' cruelty. Rex is suffering as a reminder of just how far the family will go to maintain their power, no matter the cost. Jack knows that Rex is just one small part of a much larger system of oppression and greed. But for some reason, the sight of the dog sick, abandoned, and broken hits him harder than anything else. Jack feels the weight of injustice once again. This isn't just about one animal. This is about the way the McAllisters have exploited everything they've touched, from people to animals, with no regard for the damage they leave in their wake. But Jack is faced with a dilemma. In that moment, as the wind howls through the trees and Rex looks at him with wide, trusting eyes, Jack knows he can't just leave the dog here. He can't walk away. Not this time. He has always fought against the system. But now, he is staring at the ugly face of that system in the form of a helpless creature, a symbol of everything that's wrong with the world he once tried to change. The decision weighs heavily on Jack's heart. He can take Rex to a shelter, find it a new home, or maybe even bring it to the veterinarian for care. But deep inside, something stirs. Jack feels an unexpected connection to this dog. Both of them have been abandoned, betrayed, left behind by those in power. In Rex's eyes, Jack sees a reflection of his own disillusionment and a spark of something he thought was gone forever, a need to protect, to fight back, to reclaim a sense of purpose in a world that has given him little reason to hope. He kneels again, gently running his hand through Rex's fur, now more determined than ever. Jack doesn't know how or when it happened, but he has made up his mind. He will not leave Rex here. He will not allow this animal to become just another victim of the McAllister's cruelty. "Let's get you out of here," Jack whispers, his voice full of resolve. As he leads Rex back toward the car, Jack's heart pounds in his chest. He doesn't know what he's getting himself into, but for the first time in years, he feels a sense of direction. Jack may not have the power to bring down the McAllisters or to fix the world, but for now, he can do something for Rex. He will make a stand, no matter what it takes. This is his chance to fight again, to be the person he once thought he could be, and perhaps to find redemption for himself along the way. Don't miss out on more inspiring content. Subscribe to our channel and join us on this amazing journey. Jack's journey with Rex begins to evolve as they drive away from the forest. The dog, now free from its chains, seems to settle in the back seat of Jack's car, its body still trembling from the cold, but its trust in Jack growing with every passing mile. Jack glances at Rex through the rearview mirror, the dog's tired eyes meeting his gaze with an odd sense of connection. Jack finds himself talking to the dog as if it could understand every word. A strange comfort in this new bond that is starting to form. As Jack heads towards the nearest veterinary clinic, his thoughts drift back to the discovery in the woods. The name McAllister etched on Rex's collar continues to echo in his mind. How could a family so wealthy and powerful, the same family that had once crushed his career, treat an animal with such blatant disregard? His mind spins with questions. Was Rex just another victim of their ruthless attitude? Was this a random act of cruelty? Or had the dog been subjected to this treatment for a reason? Jack's frustration begins to build, and he knows that he can't just let this slide. Jack arrives at the veterinary clinic, and as he steps out of the car with Rex, he notices the bustling, efficient environment, a place of safety and hope, far removed from the darkness he has just witnessed in the woods. The vet, a middle-aged woman named Dr. Susan Walker, greets him with a practiced smile, but Jack notices the way her eyes linger on Rex's trembling form. She quickly ushers them inside. Once inside, Jack gently places Rex on the examination table. Dr. Walker immediately begins to assess the dog's condition, her hands moving deftly over the animal's fur, inspecting its ribs, paws, and the faint markings on its neck where the rope had once been tied. Jack watches closely, his anxiety rising with every passing second. "The rope's been there for a long time," Dr. Walker remarks, her voice laced with quiet sympathy. "It's caused some serious irritation, but fortunately, there's no permanent damage to its skin. This dog is malnourished, though probably hasn't had a proper meal in weeks. And look at the condition of its fur. It's been neglected, kept in poor conditions." Jack clenches his jaw. Every word from the vet only deepens his anger. He had known Rex had been abandoned, but hearing it confirmed by a professional makes the cruelty even more real, more tangible. He wants to shout, to demand answers, but he keeps his composure. The vet continues her examination, checking Rex's eyes and mouth before turning to Jack with a concerned look. "This dog has been through a lot," Dr. Walker says, her voice more serious now. "But with some care, it should recover physically. I can give it a few treatments to help it regain strength. But I need to ask, do you know where it came from? This doesn't seem like an ordinary case of neglect." Jack's stomach tightens at the question. The weight of the discovery feels heavier now, and the last thing he wants is to bring Rex into a situation that might make it worse. The McAllisters have always been untouchable, their wealth and power extending to every corner of the town. Jack had seen firsthand how they protected their interests, silencing anyone who dared to stand against them. The thought of confronting them now, over an innocent animal, seems like a losing battle. But something shifts in Jack. He had been silent for so long, watching from the sidelines as the crowd continued to rise while he was left in the dust. This dog, this helpless creature, has reignited a spark of defiance within him. He won't let Rex's suffering be brushed aside. Not when it's tied to the very family that ruined his life, Rex. Jack begins, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside him. Rex belongs to the McAllisters. I found him abandoned in the woods, the rope. It was tied round his neck. And he's been left there to die. Double quotes Dr. Walker's expression shifts, her eyes widening in shock. The McAllisters, she repeats, her voice slowing. That doesn't sound like them. They're known for their wealth and influence. But I didn't know. I didn't think they'd be involved in something like this. You're sure? Jack nods, his hands tightening into fists at his sides. I'm sure. I've seen their cruelty firsthand. It's just another example of how they treat everything people. Animals, anyone they consider beneath them. But this time, I'm not going to stay quiet. I can't. Dr. Walker looks at him, her gaze softening as she takes in the intensity of Jack's words. I understand. This isn't something we can ignore. But you need to be careful. Jack, the McAllisters are powerful. Taking them on isn't going to be easy. They'll do everything they can to protect their image. And they'll have the legal resources to back them up. Jack swallows hard, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. The last time he tried to stand up for what was right. It cost him everything. His career, his reputation, his relationship with Emily, all of it was lost in the fight for justice. But as he looks at Rex, his heart softens. This time is different. This time, he isn't fighting for himself. He's fighting for something innocent, something that has no voice of its own. I don't care, Jack says, his voice resolute. I can't turn away now. The McAllisters have been getting away with things like this for too long. Someone has to stand up. Double quotes Dr. Walker nods slowly, her eyes filled with a mix of concern and respect. You're right. Someone does need to stand up. But be prepared, Jack. It's not just going to be about Rex. This could open up something much bigger, something that could challenge everything the McAllisters have built. Jack takes a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. He knows this won't be easy, that the road ahead will be filled with obstacles and resistance. But for the first time in years, he feels like he's found a purpose again. Rex's suffering has rekindled the fire inside him, the desire to fight back, to expose the truth and to right the wrongs of a system that values power over compassion. As the vet finishes treating Rex, Jack makes a promise to himself. He will not allow this dog, or anyone else, to become another victim of the McAllisters' cruelty. The truth needs to be exposed. Jack is ready to face the consequences, whatever they may be. This time, he will not back down after leaving the veterinary clinic. Jack's resolve grows stronger. He watches Rex as the dog lays quietly in the back seat, looking calmer now. Its breath more even. It's as though Rex knows, deep down, that Jack is determined to make sure this doesn't go unnoticed. The drive back home feels different. He's no longer just an ordinary man driving aimlessly through a bleak morning. He's on a mission now, and with Rex by his side. He feels a stirring sense of purpose that has been absent from his life for far too long. Jack's thoughts race as he navigates the snowy roads. The McAllisters, the name carries such weight in this town, their influence touching every corner of society. The family is so entrenched in local politics, business, and law enforcement that it feels impossible to fight against them. But Jack knows he cannot allow this injustice to slide by unnoticed. The weight of Rex's abandonment and the unspoken cruelty behind it gnaw at him, urging him forward. What the McAllisters did to the dog is simply the tip of the iceberg. If they could treat an innocent creature with such disdain, what else were they capable of? Jack's decision hardens with each passing mile. He's not just doing this for Rex anymore. This is about standing up to the people who have made a mockery of justice. It's about taking back some semblance of control over his own life. A life that the McAllisters and their ilk had destroyed without a second thought. That evening, Jack spends hours researching the McAllisters, piecing together a picture of their empire. He digs into court records, property deeds, and financial transactions. He learns about their shady dealings and the lawsuits that have mysteriously disappeared into the ether. Every lead he uncovers points to a family built on corruption, shrouded in wealth and untouchable by the law. Jack knows that taking them on won't be easy. But something in his gut tells him that this time, things could be different. The following day, he reaches out to old contacts from his time in the business world, former colleagues who are in the know about the McAllisters and the handed tactics. He's careful, though, aware that any word about the McAllisters could be dangerous. He needs information, but he can't trust everyone. He speaks to one former colleague, Michael, who agrees to help, though reluctantly. Michael gives him some of the inside details he needs. Tactics the McAllisters have used to get away with their crimes, ways they've manipulated the system, and the power they hold over local politicians and law enforcement. It's exactly the information Jack needs to take them down. With this new knowledge, Jack feels the pieces of the puzzle fall into place. He knows what he has to do now. He contacts a lawyer, someone he can trust, someone who has fought against corruption in the past and who might be willing to help him with a case that could expose the McAllisters' empire of lies. The day of the confrontation arrives. Jack stands outside the McAllister estate, looking up at the massive mansion, a symbol of power and privilege. His hands tremble slightly, not from fear but from the weight of the decision he's made. He knows this could change everything for him. Either he exposes the truth, or the McAllisters bury him just like they buried everyone else who dared challenge them. Jack walks up to the front door, his heart pounding. The massive wooden door creaks open, and a butler, a middle-aged man dressed in a crisp suit, steps forward. He recognizes Jack immediately, but remains stone-faced. "Mr. Taylor," the butler says with a polite but distant tone. "What brings you here today?" "I need to speak with Roger McAllister," Jack replies, his voice steady but firm. "It's about Rex." The mention of the dog's name seems to catch the butler off guard, but he quickly recovers. "Mr. McAllister is unavailable at the moment," he says. "Perhaps you would like to leave a message." Jack's blood boils at the nonchalant dismissal, but he doesn't back down. "I'm not leaving until I speak with him. It's about the way you treat animals and people." The butler hesitates, then nods. "Very well. Mr. Taylor, please follow me." As Jack follows the butler through the grand halls of the McAllister estate, the house feels colder, more oppressive with each step. The wealth and luxury that fill every room only highlight the vast difference between Jack's life and theirs. The McAllisters live in a world of excess and greed, and Jack can feel it all round him, suffocating him. Finally, they reach the study, where Roger McAllister waits. The man is older than Jack remembers, but his presence is still as imposing as ever. He sits behind a large, ornate desk, a glass of scotch in hand, looking up at Jack with a mixture of amusement and disdain. "Jack," Roger says, his voice smooth and condescending, "I didn't expect to see you here. What is it you want?" "I want answers," Jack replies, his voice cold. "I want to know why you abandoned Rex. I want to know why your family treats animals, people, anyone they deem beneath them with such cruelty." Roger smirks. "That dog was never important to us. It was just an animal, something to be used when we needed it, and discarded when it no longer served a purpose. Why do you care, Jack? This is the real world. That's how things work. You should know that by now." Jack's fists clench at his sides, his pulse quickening with rage. "It's not just about the dog, Roger. This is about everything you've done. The lies, the corruption, the people you've destroyed to protect your empire. It's time for the truth to come out. Roger leans back in his chair, a cruel smile playing at the corners of his mouth. You think you can take me down. You think the world will listen to you after everything you've lost. You're nothing but a washed-up whistleblower with nothing to prove. Jack feels a rush of anger, but he steadies himself. You're wrong. I may have lost everything, but I've gained something in return. I've gained the strength to stand up to people like you. Roger's smile fades, replaced by a sharp, calculating gaze. You'll regret this, Jack. You've made a dangerous enemy. Maybe. Jack replies, his voice unwavering. But I'm not backing down. The confrontation ends there, with no immediate resolution. But Jack knows that this is only the beginning. The truth is out there, and he's going to fight for it. No matter the cost, the battle with the McAllisters won't be easy. But for the first time in a long while, Jack feels ready to face whatever comes next. Rex's presence in his life has given him a sense of purpose again, and with that, Jack is prepared to take on the corrupt forces that have haunted him for so long. The days following Jack's confrontation with Roger McAllister are filled with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. The fight he has now chosen to undertake feels almost like a personal crusade. A battle not just for Rex, but for everything Jack has lost and for all the people who have been silenced by the McAllisters' influence. The weight of his decision hangs over him. But with every passing moment, Jack feels more certain that this is what he must do. After his conversation with Roger, Jack returns to his small apartment, Rex by his side, both of them trying to settle into the unfamiliar piece of their new life together. Jack had initially been uncertain about taking Rex in, unsure whether he was ready for the responsibility. Yet here the dog was, curled up on the couch beside him, the two of them watching the snowfall outside. For Jack, this simple companionship is something he never expected. It brings a quiet solace to the chaos that has become his life. But the peace is fragile. The McAllisters are not going to let Jack's accusations slide. Not by a long shot. Their world is one of power, of influence, and of careful control. The revelation about Rex is only a small piece of the larger picture. The McAllisters have far more to lose than just their reputation. Jack knows that. He may have exposed their cruelty to one dog, but there are countless other secrets they are desperate to keep hidden. Jack spends his nights poring over information, finding new ways to take on the McAllisters. He reaches out to other whistleblowers, those who have dared to stand up to them before, but who have been quietly crushed by the family's legal teams and media influence. He is met with hesitation, reluctance, and fear. The McAllisters are infamous for silencing those who challenge them. Some of these people were once brave enough to speak out, but now they are shadows of their former selves, afraid of the consequences they know are inevitable if they dare speak again. Despite the pushback, Jack doesn't relent. The injustice of it all fuels him. His old self, the one who believed in fighting for what was right. No matter the odds, begins to resurface. Like an ember rekindling after being buried for too long, every time he looks at Rex, a sense of duty grows within him. The dog, though battered and bruised by its past, has shown him what it means to trust again. Rex is still willing to trust, to love, to fight for survival. Jack knows he can't let that trust be in vain. One evening, as Jack walks Rex through the snow-covered streets, something shifts in him. The McAllisters' empire of wealth and deceit feels more like a looming monster than ever. But Jack also realizes that the very thing that makes them so powerful is the same thing that makes them vulnerable, their arrogance. They believe they are untouchable, that nothing can bring their world down. But Jack knows otherwise. This time, he's not just fighting for his own redemption. He's fighting for something greater, the hope that truth can still prevail. No matter how deep the corruption runs, The decision to take Rex to the local shelter, to keep him safe, feels like the right step for the moment. Jack arranges for Rex to be seen by another vet to ensure that his recovery continues without interruption. It's clear that the dog needs time to regain strength, and Jack wants to make sure he's doing everything he can for Rex, not just as an animal he's rescued, but as a companion who has helped him rediscover a sense of purpose. When they arrive at the clinic, Jack is greeted by an enthusiastic technician who immediately sets to work on Rex, ensuring that the dog will get the care it needs. Jack watches as Rex is given a warm bed and more medical attention than he's had in months. The sight fills Jack with both relief and determination. Rex deserves a life of comfort and safety. A life free from the cruelty that had been forced upon him as Jack sits in the waiting room. A thought lingers in his mind. It's a realization that deepens with every passing hour. If he wants to truly make a difference, he can't just fight the McAllisters from the outside. He needs a strategy, a solid plan, something that will expose their empire for all to see. They are too deeply embedded in the town's structure to be taken down easily. But Jack knows their vulnerabilities exist. The truth is there, waiting to be uncovered. Buried under layers of wealth and power, Jack spends the night in the clinic's waiting area, resting in a chair while Rex is monitored. The quiet hum of the clinic is a stark contrast to the storm raging in Jack's mind. He feels the weight of what's ahead. If he's going to bring down the McAllisters, he needs more than just the dog's story. He needs hard evidence, proof that will stand up in court. He needs allies, those who, like him, have been cast aside by the system. Jack can't fight this battle alone. The morning brings a fresh resolve. Jack starts reaching out again to his former colleagues, this time focusing on those who had worked alongside the McAllisters. He gets a few bites, people willing to share their stories, even if it means risking everything. The web of corruption is tangled, but the more Jack uncovers, the clearer it becomes. The McAllisters have been playing this game for years. They've built their empire by destroying others, by leaving a trail of broken lives. And now it's time to hold them accountable. As he walks out of the clinic, Rex beside him, Jack feels a quiet surge of confidence. He's not just fighting for the dog anymore. He's fighting for justice for all the people who have been crushed under the McAllisters' power. He's fighting for a chance to restore balance in a world that has long favored the corrupt. Rex looks up at him, eyes tired but trusting, as if he knows what Jack is about to do for the first time in a long time. Jack smiles. There's a certain peace in the dog's presence, a peace Jack hasn't known in years. He's no longer the man he was when he walked into this fight. Jack has become someone willing to take on the system, to tear down the walls built by people like the McAllisters, and to rebuild a life that's defined by honor, not by the weight of past failures. And with Rex by his side, Jack feels ready to face whatever comes next. He's not just going to expose the McAllisters. He's going to take them down piece by piece until the truth comes to light. It's no longer a question of if, but when. Jack is determined. And this time, he won't stop until justice is served. The weight of the world seems a little lighter as Jack walks out of the veterinary clinic with Rex by his side. The dog, though still recovering, looks more alert now, its tail wagging gently as Jack leads it to the car. It's a small sign of progress, but for Jack, it's a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the bleakest of times, there is a chance for redemption, for new beginnings. As he drives back to his apartment, Jack reflects on how drastically his life has changed in such a short period. Just a week ago, he was a man broken by a past filled with failure and betrayal. His career had been ruined, his personal relationships shattered, and his sense of purpose lost. Now, with Rex by his side, Jack feels like a part of himself he thought was long gone has been reignited. The path ahead still seems uncertain, But for the first time in years, Jack feels as though he's found something worth fighting for. That evening, as the snow continues to fall outside, Jack settles on the couch, his eyes occasionally flicking toward Rex, who lies contentedly by his side. The dog's calm presence is a balm to Jack's weary soul. He reaches down, scratching Rex behind the ears, the simple act of connection grounding him in a way he hasn't felt in so long. Rex looks up at him with trusting eyes, a silent acknowledgement of the bond forming between them. Jack knows the road ahead will be difficult, taking on the McAllisters, exposing their corruption, and bringing them to justice won't be easy. They are powerful, well-connected, and ruthless. But the more Jack thinks about it, the more he realizes that he can't back down. His personal grievances with them, the way they had destroyed his life, now pale in comparison to the larger injustice they have inflicted on so many people and animals. As the days pass, Jack begins to formulate a plan. He knows he needs more than just his own experiences to expose the McAllisters. He needs allies, information, and hard evidence that will hold up in court. He can't afford to be careless. The McAllisters have the resources to bury anyone who stands in their way, and Jack is no exception. But he's learned from his past mistakes. He won't let them intimidate him again. This time, he's playing the game differently. Jack reaches out to the few people he still trusts, including Michael, the former colleague who had given him a few pieces of information about the McAllisters' illegal dealings. He also contacts a private investigator who specializes in corporate corruption. Jack spends hours meeting with these people, gathering intel and piecing together a case against the McAllisters. It's a slow, painstaking process, but with every lead he follows, Jack gets closer to the truth. Meanwhile, Rex continues to recover. The dog, who had been so traumatized by its past, slowly begins to open up. Jack notices small changes in Rex's behavior, how it begins to wag its tail when Jack enters the room, how it follows him round the apartment, always by his side. It's a small sign of trust, of healing. Jack has always been someone who took care of others, his family, his friends, but he never imagined he'd be in a position to care for a creature as broken as Rex, and yet here they are, two lost souls finding their way together. As Jack works tirelessly to build his case, he also begins to take small steps to rebuild his own life. He reconnects with old friends, people he had pushed away when everything fell apart. Some of them are surprised to hear from him, but they understand. The truth is, Jack had cut himself off from everyone when he felt like a failure. Now, with Rex at his side, Jack feels like he has something to offer again. He's not just the man who lost everything. He's the man who's fighting back, reclaiming his voice. One evening, as Jack sits at his kitchen table, sifting through legal documents and old case files, Rex lies quietly at his feet. Jack feels a strange sense of contentment in the silence. The weight of the McAllisters' corruption still looms over him, but he no longer feels consumed by it. Rex has shown him that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness, saving a life, standing up for what's right, are the most powerful things we can do. Jack takes a deep breath, looking over the evidence he's gathered. He's got a long way to go before he can bring the McAllisters to justice. But for the first time in a long time, he's not afraid. He's no longer the broken man he once was. He's someone with a purpose, a mission, and a newfound sense of strength. Rex looks up at him, its eyes filled with quiet gratitude. Jack smiles and reaches down to stroke the dog's fur. "We're in this together, buddy," he whispers, knowing that no matter what happens next, he's not alone anymore. The days turn into weeks, and Jack's case against the McAllisters starts to take shape. He files his first report with the authorities, detailing the corruption, the illegal activities, and the abuse that Rex had suffered. The process is slow, frustrating, and full of setbacks. But Jack refuses to give up. The McAllisters may have the power, but Jack has something they can't buy. Justice. One morning, after a long night of work, Jack sits on his couch, feeling the weight of exhaustion. Rex is curled up beside him. As always, Jack closes his eyes for a moment, allowing himself to breathe in the stillness of the apartment. This quiet moment, this small victory, feels like the beginning of something new, a fresh start. Not just for Rex, but for him as well. For the first time in years, Jack feels a sense of peace settling over him. The battle with the McAllisters is far from over, but he's no longer fighting alone. He's fighting for something real, something worth every ounce of effort, and with Rex by his side. Jack knows that no matter what happens, he will keep fighting for the truth, for justice, and for a future where things can be better. And in that moment, Jack realizes that this journey, the one he never expected, has already changed him. He's not just reclaiming his life, he's saving a life, one step at a time. This character deserves a like, but sadly, they haven't gotten one yet. Let's change that. Together Jack can't stop the thoughts swirling in his mind as he stands outside the imposing gates of the McAllister estate. The heavy wrought iron gates stand as a symbol of everything that's wrong with the world. A world where power and wealth shield the guilty from the consequences of their actions for too long. The McAllisters have remained untouchable, their crimes hidden behind layers of money and influence. But Jack has seen through their facade. He knows the truth now, and it's time to confront them. With Rex at his side, Jack walks through the front gates of the estate, the crunch of the gravel beneath his feet almost drowned out by the thudding of his own heart. He's prepared for this moment. He's researched every angle, gathered every shred of evidence, and prepared himself for whatever the McAllisters might throw at him. But as the massive mansion looms ahead, Jack's resolve begins to waver slightly. This place, this symbol of their wealth and power is overwhelming. Rex, usually calm and composed, pulls at his leash. A low growl rumbling in the back of his throat. Jack looks down at him, and the dog's eyes meet his, filled with a strange understanding. Rex knows what's at stake, just as Jack does. They've both been scarred by the McAllisters' actions, and now, together, they're about to face them head-on as they approach the front door. A butler opens it before they even reach the steps. He's older than Jack remembers, his face creased with years of serving the McAllisters. The man's eyes flicker briefly to Rex before returning to Jack. He's obviously surprised to see him, but his expression is unreadable, a practiced mask of indifference. "Mr. Taylor, I didn't expect you to come," the butler says, his voice polite but cold. "Mr. McAllister is in a meeting. Perhaps you'd like to leave a message." Jack doesn't let the cold reception deter him. "No, I'm here to speak to Roger McAllister directly. It's about Rex." At the mention of the dog's name, the butler's eyes narrow slightly. There's a flicker of recognition, but he says nothing. He steps aside to allow Jack to enter, and the door closes softly behind them, sealing Jack inside the McAllister mansion. The interior of the mansion is exactly as Jack remembers: opulent, full of expensive artwork, elegant furniture, and a cold, sterile atmosphere that speaks to the McAllisters' wealth. The house feels like a monument to their success, each room carefully curated to project power and superiority. Jack can't help but feel the weight of it all, the years of corruption, of lies, of broken people that have been swept aside in the name of wealth and prestige. As the butler leads him down the long corridor toward Roger's study, Jack feels the tension building in his chest. He's about to face the man who has caused him so much pain. The man whose name is synonymous with the very corruption Jack has spent so many months exposing. The anger that's been simmering in Jack's chest since he discovered Rex's connection to the McAllisters now rises to the surface. Raw and unfiltered, they reach the study, and the butler knocks lightly before opening the door. Inside, Roger McAllister sits at his desk, a glass of whiskey in hand. He's older than Jack remembers, his face lined with the years of power he's accumulated, but the same air of arrogant superiority still hangs round him. He looks up from his desk, a slight smirk playing at the corners of his lips when he sees Jack standing in the doorway. Well, Jack, Roger says, his voice smooth and dismissive. I must admit, I didn't expect you to show your face here again. What is it that brings you back to my home? Surely you've got more important things to do than to bother me. Jack stands his ground, his anger bubbling just below the surface. I've come to talk about Rex, he says, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. I want to know why you treated that dog the way you did. I want to know how you justify abandoning him, leaving him to die in the woods like a piece of trash. Roger's smirk widens, and he takes a slow sip of his drink, his eyes never leaving Jack's. Rex, the dog. He was nothing more than an accessory, a possession. We didn't need him anymore, so we got rid of him. Simple as that. You can't expect us to keep every animal we bring into the house. They serve their purpose, and when they're no longer useful, we move on. Jack's blood boils at the casual dismissal of Rex's suffering. That's not good enough, he says, his voice rising. You can't treat living beings like disposable objects. What you did was cruel and unforgivable, and it's just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? Your family's corruption, your lies, the people you've trampled over to get to where you are. I know what you've done, Roger, and I'm not going to let you get away with it. Roger leans back in his chair, a look of amusement crossing his face. Jack, he says with a chuckle, swirling the whiskey in his glass. You've always been the idealist, haven't you? You really think you can bring me down with your accusations? You think anyone's going to care about some dog? You think the law is going to suddenly care about a man like me just because you say so? Jack's jaw tightens, but he doesn't back down. I'm not just talking about the dog, he says, his voice cold and filled with resolve. I'm talking about everything, the corruption, the illegal dealings, the people you've destroyed in your pursuit of power. I have the evidence, Roger. I'm going to take you down. Roger's expression shifts from amusement to something darker, more calculating. You think you can beat me? He asks, his tone colder now. You think the system will support someone like you? You've already lost everything. What more do you have to lose? Jack takes a step forward, his eyes locked on Roger's. I have the truth, and that's something you can't buy or manipulate. You can try to silence me. You can try to intimidate me, but you won't succeed. This time, I'm not backing down for a moment. There's silence in the room, the tension thick enough to cut through with a knife. Jack stands tall, his resolve firm. He knows this fight won't be easy. He knows the McAllisters will fight dirty, but he's prepared. This time, he's not the man who is broken by the system. He's the man who's determined to make sure the truth comes out. Roger's eyes narrow, his lips curling into a thin line. We'll see about that, Jack, he says, his voice low and filled with a dangerous edge. But you're playing a very dangerous game. Jack nods, unfazed. I've been playing this game for too long to be afraid now. The confrontation with Roger McAllister is far from over. But Jack knows that this is the beginning of something much larger than he could have ever imagined. The battle for justice has only just begun, and Jack is ready to face whatever comes next. He won't stop until the truth is revealed and until the McAllisters are held accountable for their actions. This time, Jack isn't just fighting for himself. He's fighting for everyone who has been silenced, for everyone who has been crushed under the weight of power and corruption. The moment Jack steps further into the McAllister study, the weight of the room shifts. The large, dark wood-paneled walls and the towering bookshelves full of expensive leather-bound books seem to loom over him, casting shadows that reflect the McAllisters' long-held dominance in this town. Jack takes a deep breath, focusing on Roger, who still sits behind his grand desk, a smirk curling round the edges of his mouth. Jack can feel the tension rising with each second, the battle lines drawn between them. His hands are clenched into fists at his sides, but his voice remains steady, unwavering. "You think you're untouchable, don't you?" Jack says, cutting through the silence that has grown thick between them. Roger continues to lean back in his chair, swirling his whiskey in his glass, the ice clinking softly against the crystal. "Well, Jack, we've certainly learned how to protect ourselves. But I'll be honest, I didn't expect you to show up here. Not after everything that's happened." Jack's lips curl into a faint, bitter smile. "You thought you had won, didn't you? You thought you could push me out, make me disappear, and continue your game of deception and manipulation. But it's not working this time." His eyes narrow. "Not anymore." Roger raises an eyebrow. "And why is that? What do you think you can do? You are no one. Jack, a whistleblower with no credibility. A man who's already been written off by everyone. You've lost everything. And you still think you have a chance." A rush of old frustration and pain bubbles up inside Jack. But he holds it back. He can't let Roger get to him. Not now. Not after everything he's been through. "No," Jack says, his voice now sharp with conviction. "I may have lost things. My career, my reputation, my life, the way I thought it should be. But I've gained something far more important in return. The truth, and the truth will always come out. Roger, no matter how much power you have, no matter how many people you tried to bury, the truth is unshakable." Roger snorts, shaking his head in disbelief. "Truth? What truth are you talking about? The so-called evidence you've gathered? You think anyone will care about that? This is how the world works, Jack. Power is what matters, not some foolish idealism you're clinging to. People like me get ahead because we know how to play the game. You, on the other hand, you're just a casualty." Jack steps closer to the desk, the distance between them closing as he speaks. "No, Roger, you've been hiding behind that illusion of power for too long. The game you've been playing, the people you've destroyed, the lives you've ruined, everything is about to change. I have evidence, real evidence. The kind of evidence that will bring everything crashing down." Roger's smile falters, just for a moment. "You're making a mistake. You don't know what you're dealing with." He puts down his whiskey glass with deliberate slowness. "You think you can just walk in here and expose us, the McAllisters. You think the law will just stand by and let that happen?" Jack can feel the air in the room shift. Roger's demeanor has changed, no longer the smug, condescending man he once was. Now, there's a flicker of unease behind his eyes, a crack in his carefully constructed facade. The McAllisters are used to controlling everything, manipulating every outcome. But for the first time, they're faced with something they can't control. "Jack, this isn't just about Rex," Jack continues, his voice growing louder with each word. "This is about everything you built on lies and corruption, the money you've stolen, the people you've ruined, the way you've used your power to manipulate the system. And now, it's time for you to pay the price. It's time for your empire to crumble." Roger's face hardens as Jack speaks, the flicker of doubt now replaced by cold fury. "You don't understand, do you?" Roger says, his voice low and menacing. "You think you're some kind of hero. trying to save the world from people like me. You're nothing. You've been nothing since the day you blew the whistle. You think you can just come into my home and disrupt everything I've worked for, everything I've built. I will destroy you, Jack. Don't think for a second that I won't. Jack's eyes meet Roger's, unwavering. I've been destroyed once already. But you're wrong. You don't destroy me. You made me realize that I have something more powerful than anything you've ever built. The truth, and the courage to fight for it. The silence that falls between them feels heavy, oppressive. Jack stands his ground, his chest rising and falling with the weight of the confrontation. He has no illusions about what's at stake. The McAllisters will stop at nothing to protect their empire, and that means they'll fight back with everything they have. But Jack isn't afraid anymore. He's done playing by their rules. Roger's fingers curl round the edge of his desk, his knuckles white with tension. You're playing a dangerous game. Jack, you think you can bring me down with your little accusations. The law won't side with you. No one will care about the dog. No one will care about anything you say. This is bigger than you, bigger than Rex, bigger than anything you could ever hope to accomplish. This is the McAllister family. We've weathered storms far worse than you. You've weathered storms, Jack asks, his voice rising now. You've buried people alive to keep your secrets. You've manipulated everyone and everything round you to keep your little empire standing. But that's over now. I've made sure of it. For the first time, Dax sees a crack in Roger's armor. The man's confidence falters, his eyes flickering toward the door. You think you've won. Roger growls. You're a fool. I'm not a fool, Roger, Jack says, his tone unwavering. I'm the man who's finally standing up to you, and I'm not going anywhere for a long moment. Neither man speaks. Jack stands tall, staring Roger down. The air feels thick with tension. The sound of Rex's soft breathing the only thing breaking the silence between them. Jack knows that the confrontation has reached its breaking point. Roger knows, too. The game has changed. Jack isn't the man who left this town all those years ago, defeated and broken. He's not the man who was silenced by fear. Jack is now a force to be reckoned with. Roger swallows hard, his jaw clenching in frustration. He stands, walking round his desk slowly, his eyes never leaving Jack. You don't get it, do you? Roger says, his voice now low and dangerous. You can't win this. You'll lose. People like me. We always win. Jack doesn't flinch. Not this time. Roger pauses, eyeing Jack as though weighing his next move. But the look in his eyes shifts. There's something almost calculating behind them. A new understanding that Jack isn't the same man who came to him with naive idealism years ago. For the first time, Roger seems to recognize the threat in front of him, and Jack knows that the McAllister's reign, however long it may have lasted, is finally beginning to unravel. I'll see you in court, Jack says, his voice filled with a quiet certainty. Roger doesn't reply, but his expression hardens, and Jack knows that the battle is far from over. However, one thing is clear now. Jack Taylor has won the first round. The McAllisters are no longer invincible, and with Rex by his side, Jack is ready to see this fight through to the end. The days following Jack's confrontation with Roger McAllister leave him in a strange kind of limbo. He's filed his report with the authorities, gathered the evidence, and started reaching out to his network of old colleagues and whistleblowers. Everything seems to be falling into place. Jack can feel the weight of what he's doing, the magnitude of the decision to finally take down the McAllisters. But what he didn't expect, what no one could have predicted, were the repercussions of what he had set into motion. At first, it feels like small ripples in the pond. Jack receives a few anonymous calls warning him to stop pursuing the McAllisters, to drop the case and go back to his quiet, broken life. But it's not the kind of threat that would deter someone like Jack. He's heard empty threats before, but then things start to escalate. He starts noticing strange things. His apartment building's elevator stops working intermittently, and his car's brakes squeal unnaturally. The tiny signs of intimidation seem to grow more frequent, more deliberate. It's clear the McAllisters are trying to intimidate him, to make him back down. Jack brushes it off at first, convinced that these are just petty, underhanded tactics meant to rattle him. But then it gets worse. One night, Jack arrives home to find his front door ajar. His heart races, and a wave of anxiety crushes over him. He knows something is wrong. He steps inside, carefully, quietly, scanning the apartment for any signs of forced entry. Nothing seems out of place at first. But then his eyes land on his desk, where his files he had painstakingly compiled with evidence against the McAllisters are gone. Someone has rifled through his things, taken what they wanted, and left. A sick feeling rises in Jack's chest as he realizes what's happened. The McAllisters have played their hand. This isn't just about intimidating him anymore. They've stolen his evidence, the very thing he needed to bring them down. Jack's mind races, and panic sets in as he thinks about the implications of this. The files were crucial, but they weren't the only thing. He still had backups, still had ways to track what had been taken. But the feeling of violation is overpowering. He knows the stakes are higher now. It's no longer just a case of exposure, it's about his survival. He immediately contacts his lawyer and the private investigator who had been helping him, hoping they might be able to trace the missing documents. But when he reaches out, both of them are strangely unreachable. His calls go unanswered, and a sinking feeling grips his stomach as he wonders just how far the McAllisters' influence truly extends. Jack knows he's in deeper than he ever intended. The next day, he receives a letter in the mail. It's from an anonymous source, someone who claims to have inside knowledge of the McAllisters' operations. The letter tells Jack that his investigation is about to hit a dead end, that the McAllisters are more powerful than he realizes, and that anyone who continues to pursue them will find themselves marked, hunted, and destroyed. It's not just a warning, it's a threat. The language is direct, personal, and chilling. The message is clear. Drop the case, or there will be consequences. Jack's hands shake as he holds the letter, the weight of it settling heavily on his chest. For the first time, doubt creeps into his mind. What if he's not strong enough to fight this battle? What if the McAllisters truly are untouchable? They have money, power, and a network that extends far beyond what Jack can imagine. He feels small in comparison, just a man with a dog and a handful of evidence. But then, as he looks over at Rex, lying quietly in the corner of his apartment, something stirs within Jack. He can't back down now, not after everything Rex has been through, not after all the work he's put in. He's already come this far, and there's no turning back. He won't let the McAllisters win. Despite the fear gnawing at him, Jack knows he needs to act quickly. The missing files, the threats, the sudden disconnections from people who should have been his allies, it's all part of the same strategy to crush him. But Jack isn't going to let them control him any longer. He begins to take more precautions, securing his backups in multiple places and diversifying his contacts so that he isn't so easily targeted. One day, while he's out meeting a new source who may have information about the McAllisters' deeper involvement in illegal activities, Jack's phone buzzes with an urgent message. It's from Michael, the former colleague who had initially agreed to help Jack with the case. Michael's message is short and to the point. Meet me at the old warehouse on Oak Street. I have something important to show you. Jack knows something is wrong. Michael had been so hesitant about this entire thing from the start. Why the secrecy now? Against his better judgment, Jack decides to go. He heads to the warehouse, a dilapidated building on the outskirts of town, surrounded by overgrown weeds and broken windows, as he walks into the dark, cold space. His mind races with 1,000 questions, but none of them prepare him for what he's about to find. Inside the warehouse, Michael is waiting. But he doesn't look like himself. He's anxious, his face pale and his hands trembling as he motions Jack over. The moment Jack steps closer, Michael thrusts a stack of papers into his hands. "It's all here, Jack," Michael whispers, his voice barely audible. "I had to get out. They knew about you. They knew about everything. It's too late for me. They're coming for you, too. You need to be careful. Get out now while you still can." Before Jack can respond, there's a loud noise outside, the unmistakable sound of a car screeching to a halt, followed by heavy footsteps. Michael's eyes widen in terror as he looks at Jack, his face full of guilt and regret. "I didn't want this. I didn't want to drag you into this mess. But now," Jack feels a chill run down his spine as the realization sets in. Michael has been compromised. He was trying to help, but now he's too deep in it, caught in the web of the McAllister's power. He has no way out. Suddenly, the door slams open, and men in dark suits pour into the warehouse, their faces hidden behind sunglasses. They don't need to say a word. The cold, threatening presence they exude makes it clear they're here to finish what the McAllisters started. Jack's heart pounds as he clutches the papers Michael handed him, knowing they hold the key to everything. The fight has reached a boiling point, and the stakes have never been higher. In that moment, Jack knows that this will be the most dangerous part of the battle. The McAllisters are finally coming for him, and they won't stop until he's silenced unless Jack can outsmart them, expose the truth, and finally bring them down for good. But to do that, he must survive long enough to get to the finish line. The moments after the men in dark suits flood into the warehouse blur into a haze for Jack. His mind races. His heart pounds so loudly in his ears that it almost drowns out the heavy, deliberate steps of the approaching figures. Each step they take toward him is a reminder of just how far he's come and just how much he has to lose. Jack looks down at the papers in his hands, the evidence Michael gave him, the key to everything he's been fighting for. They're his lifeline. But they also make him a target. The cold, oppressive reality of the situation crushes into him, and for a split second, he wonders if he's made a terrible mistake. Could he have walked away? Could he have let the McAllisters continue their reign of terror, pretending like it didn't affect him? But that thought fades just as quickly as it came. His gaze moves from the papers to Michael, who is visibly shaking, eyes wide with terror. Michael looks at Jack, a mixture of guilt and fear in his eyes. "Jack, I'm sorry." Michael whispers hoarsely, "I never meant for you to get caught up in this. You were right to expose them. But I didn't realize how far they'd go to protect themselves." Before Jack can say anything, one of the men in suits steps forward, his eyes scanning Jack with an intensity that chills him to the bone. "You've been warned, Mr. Taylor," the man says coldly. "You've made a dangerous enemy." Jack stands tall, trying to ignore the rush of fear in his chest. He forces his voice to remain steady as he responds, "I'm not afraid of you, and I'm not afraid of the McAllisters. You can try to intimidate me, but it's too late. The truth is already out there, and it's going to take more than threats to stop me." The man's lips curl into a thin smile, but it's not a smile of amusement. It's a smile of menace. "The truth. You really think anyone will believe you? You're a whistleblower with nothing but speculation and a couple of stolen files. No one will listen to you. No one ever does." Jack can feel the weight of those words like a punch to the gut. The McAllisters have always been experts at controlling the narrative, using their wealth and influence to silence those who try to speak out. But Jack has come too far to turn back now. He has to hold on to the truth, no matter what. Maybe they won't believe me. Jack says, his voice steady despite the growing panic inside him. But I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing it for the people you've hurt, the ones who don't have the power to fight back. I'm doing it for Rex, and for everyone who's been silenced. The man's expression darkens, and he takes another step toward Jack. You're an idealist, a fool who thinks he can change the world. But it's too late for you. Mr. Taylor, you've already made your choice, and now you'll pay for it. Jack doesn't flinch. Instead, he looks round the warehouse, taking in the men surrounding him. The walls are closing in. But there's one thing Jack knows with absolute certainty. He's not going to let them scare him. They might try to take him down, but they won't succeed. Not when he has something they can never take away, the truth. As the tension in the air grows thicker, Jack hears a faint noise behind him. It's barely audible, but in the silence of the warehouse, it's unmistakable. Rex, the dog, who had been quiet up until this point, lets out a low growl. Its eyes locked on the men in suits. It's a sound that's both protective and filled with warning. Jack's heart swells with an unexpected surge of strength. He looks down at Rex, who stands by his side. The dog's fur bristling as it prepares to defend him, despite the danger. Despite everything that has been stacked against him, Jack feels something inside him shift. This fight is no longer just about him. It's about the promise he made to Rex. The promise to protect him from a world that has only ever shown him cruelty. It's about more than justice, it's about redemption. It's about showing the world that even the smallest, most vulnerable creatures deserve a voice. Get out of here, Jack, Michael suddenly says, his voice shaking with desperation. They're going to kill you. You have to leave before it's too late. They'll come after you, and they won't stop. Jack looks at his old friend, seeing the terror in his eyes. But he knows Michael is wrong. This isn't about running. This is about facing what's coming, even when it feels impossible. He won't back down. Not now. Not when he's so close. I'm not running, Jack says, his voice firm. I've already lost too much to run now. And I'm not letting any of you walk away from this. Not after everything you've done. He takes a deep breath and turns his attention back to the men in suits, who are still eyeing him coldly. If you think you can scare me into submission, you're wrong. This isn't just about me anymore. This is about all the lives you've ruined, all the lies you've told. This is your reckoning, and I won't let you get away with it. The man who had spoken earlier glances at his associates, who seemed to be sizing up the situation. Jack feels the threat in the air like a sharp blade. They could make this go away easily. Erase him and anyone who stands in their way. But they don't know the one thing Jack has left: the conviction to never give up. Even when the odds are stacked against him. As he stares down the men in front of him, Jack knows he's not just fighting for his own redemption anymore. He's fighting for Rex, for Michael, for everyone who has been overlooked and silenced by the McAllisters. This fight is bigger than one man. It's about standing up to the people who think they can control everything, who believe they are untouchable. And as the man in front of him takes another step forward, Jack's resolve hardens. You've already lost, Jack says, his voice steady and sure. Because I'm not backing down. The men exchange uneasy glances, and sure of how to proceed. Jack knows that this battle is far from over. But right now, with Rex by his side and the truth in his hands, he has something the McAllisters will never be able to take from him: the courage to fight back, no matter what it costs. And in that moment, Jack knows he's already won. They can take everything else, but they can never take his fight for what's right. By subscribing to our channel. You're supporting the team and ensuring you don't miss any of our heartfelt and powerful stories. Your support means the world to us, and we are truly grateful for each one of you who join our community. The tension in the warehouse thickens as the men in suits continue to circle Jack. He feels trapped, a sense of doom hanging over him like a dark cloud. They've come for him, he knows that now. They want to erase him, to silence him, to bury the truth with his body. Jack can feel the weight of their eyes on him, calculating, waiting for the moment when they'll strike. But just as the first man steps forward, his expression hardened and cruel. Something unexpected happens. A sharp, piercing sound breaks through the silence like the screech of metal against metal, and Jack's heart leaps into his throat. It's a car door slamming shut. Then, footsteps, heavy and fast, accompanied by the sound of tires rolling over gravel. Jack freezes for a second, wondering if it's another group of men coming to reinforce the ones already surrounding him. But then, just as suddenly, the doors of the warehouse crash open with a force that seems to shake the very foundation of the building. The men in suits whip round, their eyes widening in confusion. The cold, oppressive atmosphere of the room shifts abruptly. Standing in the doorway, silhouetted by the street lights outside, is a familiar figure, a person Jack never thought he would see again. Jack. Michael's voice calls out from the shadows, barely audible but unmistakable. Jack's chest tightens, confusion and relief flooding his system in equal measure. Michael. His former colleague, now a fugitive from the McAllisters, has somehow found his way back to Jack, against all odds. Michael. Jack manages, still unsure if he's seeing things. It feels like a dream, a moment he couldn't have predicted. But the figure in the doorway is unmistakably real. He's holding something in his hand, a briefcase, tightly clutched against his chest. The men in suits react immediately, raising their hands to stop him, their voices low and threatening. "Get out of here." One of them growls, "This doesn't concern you." Michael doesn't flinch. He takes a step forward, his face set with grim determination. "It concerns me more than you know," he says, his voice firm but tinged with fear. "You'll regret threatening him." Jack's mind spins. He can't believe this is happening. He's been cut off from Michael for so long. Their paths diverging after Jack's whistleblowing ended their friendship. But now, standing here in front of him, Michael is making a stand one Jack never expected. "What are you doing here?" Jack asks, his voice trembling with a mix of relief and disbelief. Michael glances at him quickly, his eyes narrowing with a hint of sorrow. "I'm here to fix my mistake. The McAllisters. They got to me. But I can't keep running from this. I can't keep pretending I'm not a part of what they've done." The men in suits are furious now, moving toward Michael with deliberate steps. "You've made a terrible mistake, Michael." One of them warns, "You can't just walk in here and think you can make demands." But Michael stands tall, unwavering. He doesn't back down. Instead, he opens the briefcase he's holding, setting it down on the floor with a heavy thud. He unclips the latches with quick, deliberate movements, and the room falls silent, every pair of eyes glued to what's inside. Inside the briefcase is a stack of papers. It's not the kind of evidence Jack was expecting. No photos, no recordings. But as Michael pulls out the top folder, Jack's pulse quickens. It's a legal brief. The documents contain detailed information about the McAllisters' illegal dealings, corporate fraud, and hidden accounts that trace back to the family's involvement in embezzlement, money laundering, and human rights violations. It's the kind of damning evidence that could take down their empire. "You see, I've been doing some digging of my own," Michael says, looking at the men in suits who now seem to be growing more and more uneasy. "These are copies of transactions, offshore accounts, and evidence of McAllister family dealings that no one else could ever get their hands on. But I did. I've been collecting it, working in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. Jack's heart pounds in his chest, disbelief still coursing through him, the man who had once been a passive observer, too scared to act, is now offering the very thing they need to bring the McAllisters down. Why now? Jack asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Why are you helping me now? Michael looks at him with a mix of regret and guilt. Because I can't live with myself anymore. Jack, I watched you suffer. Watched the McAllisters ruin your life. And I did nothing. I justified it by telling myself that I was protecting myself. That I had no choice. But I do have a choice. I can do the right thing now. The men in suits are growing more frantic now. Stop him. One shouts. He's lying. He doesn't know what he's doing. But Michael doesn't flinch. I know exactly what I'm doing. He says, his voice cold and certain, I'm giving you the truth. The McAllisters can't hide behind their money anymore. The tension in the room peaks as the men in suits step back, their expressions filled with rage and confusion. The man who had been the most vocal finally steps forward, his voice laced with venom. You think this changes anything? He spits, you're nothing but a rat, Michael. A rat trying to tear down everything you've been a part of. This will come back to haunt you. You'll never be safe again. Michael, however, stands firm, his shoulders squared, the weight of his decision clear in his posture. I've been living in the shadows for too long, he says, his voice now stronger than Jack has ever heard it, and I'm done being afraid. There's a long, drawn-out silence in the warehouse. Jack watches as the men in suits exchange looks of uncertainty. They've been caught off guard, their plans unraveling before their eyes. The power they once held is slipping away, and the truth is beginning to see the light of day. I'm not running anymore, Michael adds, his eyes meeting Jack's. I'm here to stand with you. Let's bring them down together. Jack looks at the briefcase, at the evidence that Michael has so courageously brought to him, and a surge of hope floods his chest. This is it. This is the break he's been waiting for. With Michael's help, they have what they need to expose the McAllisters and finally take them down. The McAllisters may have thought they could control everything, hide the truth, silence anyone who gets too close. But now, with Michael by his side and the truth in hand, Jack knows the fight isn't over. It's just beginning, and this time, they won't be stopped. The moment Michael hands Jack the briefcase with all the incriminating evidence, a wave of relief washes over him. But it's short-lived. The men in suits are still in the room, closing in. The stakes are higher than ever, and the tension is palpable. They can no longer afford to underestimate the power they've unleashed by giving Jack and Michael the upper hand. The McAllisters' empire, once solid as steel, now has cracks, and those cracks are beginning to spread. Michael stands beside Jack, ready to face whatever comes next. There's a quiet strength in him now, something Jack hasn't seen before. Michael has crossed a line, stepping out of the shadows, and he's done what he can to right the wrongs of the past. Jack looks at him, appreciating the weight of what Michael is doing. But the reality still lingers in the air. This fight is far from over. Do you really think you can get away with this? One of the men in suits sneers, his voice dripping with menace. You don't know who you're dealing with. Michael doesn't flinch. I know exactly who I'm dealing with, he says, his voice steady. And it's over. You've played the game for far too long. The truth is out, and it's going to catch up to you. Jack feels the air crackle with an energy that is both terrifying and empowering. For the first time in a long while, Jack feels in control. The McAllisters had always seemed untouchable, their influence stretching far and wide, their wealth protecting them from consequences. But now, they're on the back foot, the walls closing in on them. The man who had been leading the charge, the one with the cold, calculating eye steps forward, his face a mask of pure fury. You think you can just expose us. That's cute. You think a few pieces of paper are going to bring down decades of power. You're wrong. You're making a big mistake, Jack. Big enough to regret it. Jack tightens his grip on the briefcase, but his voice remains calm. It's not just about the papers, though, is it? You've been covering your tracks for years, but you can't erase what you've done. We have the evidence, Michael and I. You can't hide behind your wealth and your influence anymore. The man glances back at the others, his jaw clenched, his eyes scanning the room, weighing his options. It's clear to Jack that the man knows they're running out of time. The McAllister's game is falling apart, and their carefully constructed Fawade is crumbling under the pressure. You are making a mistake, Jack, the man repeats. But now there's a tremor in his voice, a flicker of uncertainty. You don't know how deep this goes. You are not going to walk away from this unscathed. Michael steps in front of Jack, his voice slow but full of authority. We already have. He says, it's over. The people you've destroyed, the lives you've ruined no more. You've pushed too far, and now it's your turn to face the consequences. The room is deathly silent for a moment, and then one of the men in suits moves quickly. Too quickly. His hand reaches toward a hidden gun at his side. His eyes locked on Jack, intent on ending this right here, right now. But before he can draw it, Rex lets out a loud, menacing growl. His stance firm beside Jack. The dog's presence, enough to freeze everyone in place. Jack feels a surge of gratitude for the dog, who has, in some strange way, become his protector. Rex isn't just a companion. He's a symbol of everything Jack is fighting for: the innocent, the vulnerable, the ones who don't have a voice. The man pauses, looking at the dog, hesitation flashing in his eyes. The tension in the air is thick enough to cut through with a knife. For a second, it seems as though everything will explode into chaos. But then something shifts. The man retracts his hand slowly, his face contorted in frustration. I told you. The man growls, his voice thick with anger. You'll regret this, but it's not over. We still have ways of making you suffer. Jack feels the weight of the man's words, but he doesn't let them faze him. You've already lost, he says quietly, the words landing heavy in the room. The truth is out. People will hear it, and they'll come for you. It's over. For a brief moment, the men in suits seem unsure of what to do. They're trapped between the undeniable evidence in front of them and the reality that Jack and Michael have somehow gotten the upper hand. Their powerful, ruthless facade is faltering. Roger McAllister's men have always been a symbol of his empire, powerful, untouchable, and untamed. But now, in the face of truth, they are reduced to shadows, hesitant and unsure. Jack steps forward, the briefcase clutched tightly in his hands. He looks at each of them, his eyes unwavering. You can walk away now. You can go back to your life of lies and deceit. And I'll make sure everyone knows what you've done. Or you can try to fight. But I promise you, you won't win. Not this time. The room is still. And for the first time, Jack feels a sense of peace amidst the chaos. He's not afraid anymore. He's not the broken man he was when he first began this fight. He's someone who has stood up for what's right. And now the truth is on his side. He knows that the next steps will be dangerous, that there will be challenges ahead. But he also knows he's not alone. With Michael's help, with Rex by his side, and with the truth now out there, he has everything he needs to finish this fight. The men in suits exchange one last look, and then, slowly, they begin to retreat. There's no fight left in them. They know the game is over, and they know the McAllister's empire is crumbling. Jack and Michael have won this round. As the men file out of the warehouse, Jack exhales slowly. the weight of the moment lifting from his shoulders. It's not over yet, but it's a victory, and it's one they've earned. Michael looks at Jack, his face a mixture of exhaustion and relief. "We did it," he says, his voice shaking with the enormity of what's just happened. Jack nods, glancing down at Rex, who is still standing loyally by his side, his tail wagging slightly. "Yeah," Jack says, a small smile playing at his lips. "We did." And in that moment, Jack knows that no matter how this battle ends, he's already won. He's fought for what's right, exposed the truth, and held the McAllisters accountable. That, in itself, is a victory worth everything. The days after the showdown in the warehouse blurred together in a strange mix of exhaustion and relief. The McAllisters' empire, once seemingly invincible, is crumbling. The evidence that Jack and Michael had gathered is now in the hands of law enforcement. And the ripple effect of their actions is already starting to spread. The McAllisters are facing investigations from every angle: financial fraud, corruption, illegal business practices, and yes, even their abuse of animals. The truth, which had been buried under layers of power and influence for so long, is finally surfacing, and it's impossible to ignore. Jack's life, in the span of just a few days, has been turned upside down. The fight for justice he never thought he would have the strength to carry out has been won. But the cost has been high. Michael, though he played a crucial part in exposing the truth, is not untouched by the consequences. His involvement in the McAllisters' operations has left scars, and he knows it. He's facing legal action himself, but he's ready to accept whatever comes next. There's a quiet, almost somber sense of peace in his resolve. But for Jack, there's a deeper satisfaction that goes beyond the victories. The thing that has changed him the most isn't just the victory over the McAllisters. It's the bond he's formed with Rex. In a world that had been so cruel to him, the dog has shown Jack something he thought he had lost: trust. Rex's loyalty, even after everything he's been through, has become a symbol of the hope Jack had nearly forgotten. Together, they've both fought for a better life, and now they have it, sitting in his small, modest apartment with Rex curled up at his feet. Jack takes a long, deep breath, savoring the quiet peace he's found. The weight of the world has shifted. For the first time in years, Jack doesn't feel the suffocating pressure of failure. He's not defined by the past anymore. He's not the man who lost everything. He's the man who stood up for what was right, even when it seemed impossible. And now, for the first time, he feels like he can breathe again. Jack picks up the phone and calls his family. It's been months since they last spoke, and he knows the wounds are still fresh from his fallout with them. But he's not the same man he was when he left. The person who made mistakes, who lost his way, is gone. He's ready to make amends, to rebuild the bridges he once burned. The conversation is tentative at first, but with each word, Jack can feel the walls between them start to crumble. His family may not understand everything he's been through, but they can see the change in him, and that, in itself, is enough. For the first time in a long while, Jack feels hopeful about the future. It's not going to be easy. The McAllisters aren't finished yet. They still have power. They still have influence, and there will be more battles ahead. But Jack isn't afraid. He's done fighting in the shadows, done trying to appease those who have no regard for the truth. He's standing in the light now, with Rex by his side, ready to take on whatever challenges come next. The phone call ends, and Jack looks over at Rex, who lifts his head as if sensing his shift in mood. Jack smiles softly, reaching down to scratch the dog's ears. "We did it, buddy," he says, his voice thick with emotion. "We're free, you and me." Rex wags his tail in response, his eyes filled with quiet gratitude and understanding. For a moment, It's just the two of them to souls who have found solace in each other after so much pain and uncertainty. Jack leans back in his chair, looking out the window at the city beyond. The morning light is breaking through the clouds, a faint orange glow spreading across the horizon. And in that moment, Jack realizes something profound. The world may be flawed, corrupt, and full of injustice, but it's also full of redemption. Jack's journey wasn't just about bringing down the McAllisters, it was about finding himself again. It was about learning that even in the darkest of times, there is light, and that light, he realizes, is the kind of hope he's been missing all along. Jack's phone buzzes with an incoming message. It's from Michael. It's over. They're coming for the McAllisters. Everything's in motion. I'll be in touch. But, Jack, I'm proud of you. We both did the right thing. Jack stares at the message for a long time, letting the words sink in. For the first time, he truly feels like he's made a difference. He's not just a whistleblower or a man who lost everything. He's someone who fought for something bigger than himself and won. With a deep breath, Jack closes his eyes, feeling the weight of his journey lift from his shoulders. This isn't the end. It's only the beginning. And with Rex by his side, Jack knows that whatever comes next, he's ready. The days that follow feel like a dreamer dreamed that Jack had fought for but never thought would come true. The McAllisters' empire is in turmoil. Investigations are underway, and their once immovable power is crumbling. The evidence Jack and Michael gathered is like a ticking clock, and with every passing moment, the McAllisters' world becomes less certain. Jack has won. But he knows that the battle isn't completely over. The McAllisters still have their resources, and they won't give up without a fight. But Jack is no longer the man he was when he started this journey. Jack spends his mornings at his desk, poring over documents, organizing his evidence, and communicating with the authorities. The pressure of the case has lightened, but the weight of knowing the McAllisters are on the defensive is a constant reminder that they won't give up easily. But Jack feels a sense of resolve, something he hasn't felt in a long time. He's no longer chasing an ideal. He's fighting for the people who don't have a voice, for the innocent animals like Rex, who were treated as mere possessions to be discarded. Rex, now fully recovered, sits beside Jack, his presence grounding him, reminding him of why he started this fight in the first place. The bond between them is undeniable, forged through hardship and survival. Jack smiles down at the dog, whose eyes reflect a quiet loyalty and understanding. Rex's journey mirrors Jack's own, both of them, at one point, abandoned and left to struggle. But now they've found a new beginning, together. The phone rings, pulling Jack from his thoughts. It's Michael. Jack answers quickly, his curiosity piqued. It's done, Michael says, his voice steady but tinged with exhaustion. The authorities have all the evidence they need. The McAllisters are being investigated on multiple charges: corruption, fraud, money laundering. It's out of our hands now. The case is bigger than we ever imagined. Jack lets out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The weight of everything that's happened, everything they've fought for, finally feels like it's paying off. It's really happening, Jack says, his voice full of disbelief. It's happening, and we did it. Michael replies, you're a hell of a guy. Jack, I didn't think you'd ever get this far, but you did. Jack feels a pang of pride, tempered by the realization that he couldn't have done it alone. Michael, despite his mistakes, has proven to be an unexpected ally. Their work together has given Jack a new sense of purpose, something he thought was lost when his career and life crumbled under the weight of the McAllisters' power. I couldn't have done it without you, Jack says, his voice soft with gratitude. Thank you for believing in the truth, for believing in what we could do together. There's a pause on the other end of the line. Then Michael responds, his voice quieter. I'm sorry for everything. Jack. I should have done this sooner. I should have helped you from the start. Jack shakes his head. Even though Michael can't see him, the past is the past. Michael, we can't change it, but we can do better moving forward. We're doing better now. The call ends, and Jack sets the phone down, a sense of finality settling in his chest. The McAllisters' reign is over. They will have to face the consequences of their actions. But more importantly, Jack has taken the first steps toward rebuilding his own life. The weight of the battle he fought still lingers, but it's not a burden. It's a badge of honor, proof that even in the face of insurmountable odds, the truth can still win. Jack leans back in his chair, looking out the window at the setting sun. For the first time in a long time, the world doesn't feel so cold. The horizon is bathed in a soft, golden light. The darkness of the past slowly fading into the promise of a new beginning. Jack's journey, though difficult, has brought him to this moment, this place of peace and possibility. Rex, sensing Jack's shift in mood, jumps up and pads over to him, resting his head on Jack's knee. Jack smiles, reaching down to scratch behind Rex's ears. We did it. Buddy, Jack whispers, his voice thick with emotion. We're free. And in that moment, Jack realizes something powerful. The fight for justice, for truth, was never just about taking down the McAllisters. It was about finding the strength to move forward, to reclaim a life he thought was lost. It was about healing, not just for himself, but for everyone who had been silenced. And with Rex by his side, Jack knows that no matter what the future holds, he's ready to face it. The world may be filled with darkness, with corruption and cruelty. But Jack knows now that even in the face of those shadows, there is always the possibility of light. A new hope has dawned, and it's brighter than he ever thought possible. For the first time in years, Jack feels free, and with Rex at his side, he knows the future is full of endless possibilities. Thank you for watching. We appreciate your support. Don't forget to like this video if it moved you. Share it with your friends and family, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. We'd love to know if you want a second part to this story. Your feedback helps us create even better content for you. Make sure to subscribe to stay updated on all our latest releases. Your engagement means everything to us.